The best show in the Midwest. I am sad. We've had some technical difficulties with my old Mac here, so we are using a phone with GarageBand to make it happen, because we want to make sure we stay with you consistently.
Yes.
Especially in these crazy times.
Yep.
That is why today's episode is solely on the 2020 primary elections and the 2020 upcoming elections that are going to be happening in November. The winter is coming. Like it's coming soon.
Oh man.
So yeah, I definitely want to talk about things because, I think as students, people are missing the Democratic debates on a weekly basis, which is understandable because we're having one literally every week in different caucuses in different states. So I guess let's try to throw it back to January 2020, where we had the Iowa caucus, which was a cluster mess of just tallying people's votes to see who would win there, and that would kind of push onto the rest of the time for the Democratic nominee. It was supposed to be Bernie Sanders that was going to win. I think he got close. He had more votes, but then Pete Buttigieg, he got the more delegates, and so it was a really weird process. And there was scandal that he had an app that was supposed to count the ballots, and so everyone was trying to connect the dots that since he put the most money into the app creation, that it was his voters who were counted first, and so that happened. And then we moved on to New Hampshire, where everyone was okay, now we're getting to a regular caucus. We're fine. We'll do this. It's going to be Biden. No, surprise, surprise. Bernie Sanders come out of nowhere with a haymaker and just been killing it.
Ever since,
Ever since. And so everyone's been very excited who are Bernie fans, while others who I would consider moderate Democrats are very nervous. And this is just solely because of the whole label of democratic socialism and the fear of what socialism can bring, which, on the outside, yes, that does look scary, but on the inside, it's stuff that we've been doing.
Right.
It's stuff that we've been doing for, the 1%, giving them, healthcare, without even thinking it, this, that, and the third. It's been stuff that's been hidden within our nation's economic status, but now that someone wants to bring it to everybody, that's when everyone's scared. So then we move on to Nevada, where after a year or so, a year and 2 years, something like that, everyone's seen the commercials. Mike Bloomberg is gonna do it. Mike Bloomberg gonna change the world. Mike Bloomberg did this. Mike Bloomberg's Super Bowl. Everyone has seen commercials. Everyone has seen his name.
Everywhere.
But at this point, he had not been in one Democratic debate since. So,
where's your presence?
Yeah, where's your presence? So in Nevada, everyone's oh, this is going to be his first, Democratic debate. And he got roasted more than Comedy Central roast. This man got cut up left and right. And I ain't talking about with a shiv or nothing. I'm talking about the harsh and cutthroat words of Elizabeth Warren. She came after him strong as crazy. Strong and hard, because Michael Bloomberg has been, noted and infamous for
in New York.
Doing stop and frisk in New York, which, to break it down, it's literally me going in the streets of Manhattan, Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, walking my daily, life, and getting stopped by the police, having them say, "We know you have something on you," having them push me against the wall, and then checking me for things.
For no reason.
For no reason. And so he's been infamous for saying that they do stop and frisk for more white people more often, and that they should do it more for minorities. That is his quote. It's so sick. It's so dumb. He has, he was the former mayor of New York City. He's been infamous for his, business and his profits and everything like that. And he's been noted for being just a douche and being very scandalous towards women of his company and having multiple, and his words are, a few non-disclosure contracts with women who he said, sexual harassing jokes or sexual harassing comments or sexual harassing physical incidences, which, these women signed these closures and it's just like, don't talk, here's your money. And so Elizabeth Warren went at him, like, full force, and just mentioned, like, why do we need someone who calls, women pigs and broads? And guess what, guys? I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about, Michael Bloomberg. And so everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. Like, why is he on the stage? And, he's trying his best to, like, comment and talk about most of his, like, issues that he wants to face, most of the things he wants to tackle, how he's going to beat Trump. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where I kind of get into, like, this nervous kind of feeling. Because in Nevada, Bernie won without the night even ending. Like, it was halfway into the night, and then we get, like, texts like, Bernie Sanders won. But then there was, like, a shift with the Democratic Party of, like, them being scared. And I was like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? So I flip, onto Twitter. I flip onto, like, CNN, ABC News, and all these, like, news networks that are supposed to give me, like, the facts. They give me the facts that, like, Bernie Sanders won with a landslide, which is great. And then everyone else is saying, like, oh, this is going to be really bad, like, for the Democratic Party and this and that. Meanwhile, I'm like, okay, what is the problem here? Like, he wants universal health care. He wants to ban assault rifles. He wants to provide public education for college students by making tuition free. He wants to provide enough money for public educators so that they can get $60K for their salary. But because he's a socialist, that's where everyone's like, oh man, we can't have that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the damaging things that happened during the weekend, along with the Nevada caucus, was his 60-minute interview with Anderson Cooper, where he talked about Cuba and Fidel Castro. And this is what he mentioned that Obama had mentioned before, that Cuba had an education program that gave most of the children, like, literacy rates. And, like, the literacy rates rose up, and he was like, hey, I'm not saying I love Fidel Castro. F Fidel Castro. And I'm not going to go blindside of the one thing that the government did right. Which was the public education program. So I'm just letting you guys know that. Go Bernie. Everyone lit up, all social media
Fidel
being
lover.
like, that he really means what he means by being a socialist and this and that and the third. And he wants to be Fidel Castro. And I'm like, he can't run that fast. Like, the man just had a heart attack. Like, let him breathe, And so this is where I get frustrated, because we have a candidate who's highly radical, highly progressive, knows what he wants, knows what he sees in other countries, because other countries do have a universal health care program, and yet we have others who are like, no, we need to stay moderate. And so I've seen, like, discussions of, like, who do we need to push for? And Bernie is like, we need to push young voters. And by the way, anyone who's, like, listening to this live, go vote. For Colorado, our biggest day is going to be next Tuesday. That's the deadline for us. But you could have mailed in your ballot. You could like, go vote in the Tivoli now. If you want to go early. But our last day, Super Tuesday, I think 16 states, I believe. It's going to be their primaries all at the same time. So they're all going to be voting at once. And so he's vying for young voters. And you start seeing this in the rallies. I think he's come to Denver twice. I've been to one in City Hall.
Yeah, that was last semester, right?
Yeah, that was last semester. And that was really big. That was really huge. And there's a lot of young voters. And then for this one, recently, you went to the convention center, got 11,000 people, and still did great with young voters. That's who he wants. That's ideally, in my opinion, who you would want. Because if you
they're going to be the next people.
Yeah, they're going to be the next people. Like, I understand, like, for moderate voters or moderate Democrats, they want, like, the more reliable voters, which are like people who are 45 or over to vote, like congratulations that you have a 9 to 5 job so that you can take a break to go vote. Like I understand that. But for young voters, they're going to be the next wave of these like 35 to 45, 45 to plus age voters who are going to take the reins of like the responsibility of voting. I think that this like election cycle has like sparked this kind of flame with younger voters, which is great. I want people to be more interactive.
Because we thought it affected people for the last election, but this is like way more now. I think more people are just like, oh, like
now I have to go. Like I really gotta go.
Yeah.
How much impact it will make because.
Yeah, because the people who didn't go last time, and I'm not saying like, I'm also not blaming a lot of the people who didn't vote because there are some people who, especially when it was between Clinton and Trump.
Or it was first Clinton
too,
and Bernie. A lot of people went for Clinton, and a lot of people went for Bernie.
Yeah.
And when it was Clinton, a lot of people were like, I don't want to vote.
For Clinton.
You know.
And like people were like, oh, like well she's a woman, like she's still like progressive and stuff. But like I think people forget about the 3 strikes rule with President Clinton beforehand, and she was still with him. I mean, like unfortunately, like she is her own person, and she also supported her husband with the 3 strikes rule and the high incarceration and everything like that. So like I can't remember who it was that people were like, you all are wanting black voters to vote for Clinton, and they're like, because we voted for Obama, and we're like, it's not the same person. It's not the same person. And I voted for Clinton because I knew who I didn't want in the office. But it wasn't. It was more of that. I knew who I didn't want in office.
Yes.
More than me being like a super gung ho Clinton. I'm with her.
And that was the same thing with me. Like definitely, I, made a comparison. I was like, guys, do you want like a gaping stab wound for 4 years that's just gonna like pus and gross and be scabby? Or do you want a band-aid over like 13 paper cuts? I'm fine for a little bit. That's fine with me. But like definitely definitely in 2016 I had the same feeling of, man, like I really don't like the Democratic nominee, and I don't want
this
Trump.
worst person.
In
my opinion.
And like, I'm just going to give a side note to whoever who is Republican, who is voting in the primary. We know who you're going to vote for. Go ahead. So, going back to the Democratic primaries, which is going to a, cluster mess, we have the other nominees, Pete Buttigieg, former mayor of South Bend, Indianapolis. He's doing great. He's been very cautious and very, tactical of calling out for Bernie. I think in the South Carolina debates last night, he brought up a very good point that with Bernie being so progressive and so left, that a lot of members of the House and the House of Representatives and the Senate, the House of Representatives and the Senate are more important right now, along with the presidency for the election.
Yeah.
So what he meant by that is just that with Bernie getting this nominee, a lot of individuals within senators and representatives aren't going to be
super gung-ho about Bernie.
Exactly. And he's like, we need everything.
Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, they're both like kind of the same. I mean, more for Bernie for
more
sure.
for Bernie for sure, but like Pete was like, if we get Bernie, it's going to be that much harder to get a blue House of Representatives and a blue Senate. Like right now with the Senate being majority Republican, nothing goes forward. Nothing passes, and the only thing that the president's going to do is just kind of stonewall everything for the next 4 years, which isn't going to go anywhere. With a president, we need not only a shift from, we need a stronger base for the House of Representatives, but we need a shift for the Senate to get anything going forward in a quickly manner. Like, we hear these promises of like day one, universal health care, day one, ban of assault rifles, ban, day one, open borders. But that's not going to happen, period, if the Senate is still Republican. And even if it goes to the Supreme Court for any other case, guess what? That's still Republican majority too now. So it's just like, you know, but he does have the idea, Pete, of making the Supreme Court 9 and pushing it to 15 members, which is going to be a huge change, which I don't think is going to happen. But if it does, that would be a good shift for the future. But, you know, he has the similar ideas of Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, but he just wants to, like, slow it down. Like, he wants everyone to have health care. That's understandable. But he wants people to be fine with the programs that they have now. Like, if you're good with your insurance, keep with it. Like, that's, you know, that's what he's saying. Like, yo, keep your insurance. If you're fine with paying for it, pay your taxes, pay this, you'll be fine. For the person who doesn't have insurance, we're going to hook you up with insurance. And I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty good. You know, all right. And then we move on to Brother Joe. You know, this has been the person.
Sorry, I couldn't cackle like that.
I feel so bad.
I don't.
Because this man, he's run for president twice.
Yeah.
And he's lost twice.
I mean.
So this is his third go around, and he is like pro Obama.
That's exactly what.
And this is the problem with people who are with Joe. And like, look, if you're a supporter, that's fine. I'm not bashing you. However, I am saying that a lot of times that he would bring up the administration that he worked for, he would say it as if
it was
in
him.
first person it was him. When it was the Obama administration, not the Biden administration.
Yeah.
There were a lot of like laws that he pushed for, like the boyfriend loop of like domestic violence, like you know, the partner could not have a weapon if they were charged in their past with domestic violence. He has pushed for like, you know, gun manufacturers to prevent them from getting through with gun shows or all that stuff. And he's just been very pushing on like, hey, I'm good with the African American population. I'm good with them. They my homies, you know. And he's very.
We were Barack's
yes.
homies. So let's make that like very.
And that's the thing that I'm very excited to watch for Saturday, because Saturday is the primary for South Carolina, and you know, he's very, very confident. He's like, oh, I'm gonna win. And they're like, what happens if you don't win, Joe? And he's like, oh, that's not a question. And that scares me, because I'm like, yo, that's a pretty cocky, you know, if Han Solo
said that, and I was like,
you know, if Han Solo has taught me anything, don't be cocky, kid. Like, calm down.
That's the thing. Like, I think that's the biggest part that bothers me about Biden, is that he's riding on the coattails of Barack.
Yes.
And it's just like, yes, you were there, and you can't expect us to vote for you just because he was the VP. Like, you need to produce more things on your own. I don't know. Like, he throws out his name a lot.
Yes.
A lot. And he's like, the Obama administration.
Well, recently it stopped. Like, he stopped using the Obama administration. But now he's replacing it with, I did this. And when I got it done, we did this. And I was like, who's the we, Joe?
Yeah.
I think we all know who that is. Yeah, like, we're not dumb. Like, we can look back on, like, your lingo. And he notices that, too, and that's why he's changed his language. But we know who you worked for, and, like, a lot of people who already didn't like Obama, because there were still people who did not like Obama who were Democrats. They were still not going to like Joe for just changing his language.
Right.
So,
you would assume, like, if you're running for the primaries, right, that you would use your platform in your own way.
Yeah.
But, like, if you keep highlighting the past, like, that's past work.
Yes.
Like, it's good to acknowledge it, but, like, we need present and future work being done right now.
Exactly.
And he just needs to be his own person.
Yourself,
If you're wanting to promote, if you're
Yeah.
wanting to promote yourself as the next president, I feel like you can't be like, well, when I was vice president and did this, and like with Barack and like that.
And it's a hard thing, because it's like you know, you've been so ingrained in that administration. I know, but there was a lot of bad things with the administration too. Like definitely, like Obama, the deportation was
crazy.
Like, I think it was like 300,000 people, like a month or
was
something
way
like
more.
that.
Yeah.
And when he got asked about that, he was like, "Oh, that wasn't me." I was like, "Dog, that was you. That was your crew. That was you."
Now you don't want any part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he's in third place. Fourth place, we got Elizabeth Warren. You know, definitely she has the same ideals as Bernie, but she wants to slow it down. Just like Pete. She wants to make sure that everyone has health care. She wants to make sure that children 0 to 5 have proper health and child care. Because we know, like, child care cannot be done by a single parent or 2 parents. It takes multiple people, multiple daycare systems, and multiple, like, better quality daycare systems. So how do you get that done? You get that money from big corporations, big millionaires, like Mike Bloomberg, you know, whatever. And she's definitely, like, calling out every single person that's like, hey, like, I know you did wrong, so I'm going to make sure that when I'm president, you're going to serve time, period. Guess what? All the billionaires and all this, like, you're going to need to pay taxes. And if you don't, we're going to have to handle it one way or another. Yeah. So definitely she's like the mob boss of the, I love her. I definitely, like, love her to death just because she's so, like, gung-ho and like, ready to go. And she's not afraid to, like, call out people and be like, yo, where are your tax returns? Like, oh, we're taking some time. It's like, you know how much time it takes TurboTax to do it? I got it done. Like, she'll be very, like, poignant and very smart and very quick. A lot of people have, like, put in the theory that they could do, like, a vice president, Warren president. Sanders. Yeah. That combination could work, but it scared the hell out of everybody. Like, everyone would,
of course,
everyone would run all over the place.
We don't want the socialist and the angry woman.
Yeah, exactly, Amy Klobuchar is our 5th person on the top.
I'm honestly super surprised at how well she's doing.
She's doing great, and she's holding it down like as much as she can. I think the hard part is that, you know, Pete is just kind of like gunning her down just because, like, she's just trying to, like, he's just trying to cut the fat off the meat and just be like, yo, we gotta narrow this down. And basically that's, you know, kind of where we're at this point, where next week we're gonna have to vote for one of these top 5 people, and I'm saying top 5 people because on a website it will give you Andrew Yang and Michael Bennett and Mike Bloomberg, Tom Steiner. People, like, let me say this loud and clear. There's clear. Claro. Yo, there's 5 people that are on the top spot for this Democratic nominee. Pick one of the 5 people. I know Andrew Yang was going to give you $1,000 if he was going to be president. He's not going to be president. Michael Bloomberg is not going to get it done. Tom Steiner put money into private prisons. He put money into private prisons. So, like, I know he's trying to do his best to, like, get the people's vote back and get, like, the faith back and everything like that. But there are 5 people on the top spot for the Democratic nominee. Please, please, please go through every issue that you have in your mind. If it's climate change, if it's your own healthcare, if it's your economic growth, if it's your student debt, if it's your family generational trauma, if it's border control, if it's the coronavirus, if it's, you know, McDonald's and obesity and the problem over there. Really think about it. Do your research over the 5 people that I've listed: Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar. Go through those 5 people's websites, go through their backgrounds, go through their tax returns, go through any video that they've gone through, and, you know, do a self-reflection as the individual of who do I want to vote for and who do I think is going to be a strong enough candidate so that we can cut the BS and just focus on what's going to happen between May and November. Because this is, I don't want a repeat of 2016 where everyone was like, ugh, I'm kind of okay with Hillary. No, we need to be 1,000% okay. I'm speaking to the Bernie people. Because if Bernie doesn't get, you know, nominated, a lot of the Bernie bros gotta like back off. Yeah. You know,
because a lot of people were just like, okay, then I'm not voting, and I'm like, we need
you to still vote. Yes. And if you didn't hear anything that I just said, or you just thought it was like gibberish, go vote. If you take anything from this episode, go vote. Yeah. Go to the Tivoli. We will be there. We can help you. We'll take pictures. We'll do whatever. We'll Uber you. You know, like, you are a part of this university, and you're a part of in our government, in our nation, and of the free world. Yep.
Hopefully free.
But yes, with that, I'm sorry that I took over that whole.
Honestly, we went into this episode knowing it was going to be Ray's episode. I mean, we were just talking previously, and like Ray's watched every single one of the debates. He's very much the one who's like most caught up on all of this. I even know that I still need to do a lot of research. I think I know who I'm voting for, and I'm pretty sure I know who I'm voting. I'm like 98% sure. But I also know that I still need to do some research just so I can double check and make sure that this is the person that I actually want to represent me. And then because that's honestly what that person in that office does, is they do represent you some way, somehow, even if you don't like it. I know, like, I'm planning on going out of the country in a few months, and I'm already mentally preparing for people to talk to me about my president, or he's not my president, but the president here, 45, and having to make it clear, like, I don't like him, I did not vote for him, because that goes beyond when you leave here in the States even. And so, like, make sure that that person that you have, that you're going to vote for, really embodies, like, who you are, in a sense, and what you want to see happen. And I would say also keep in mind what you're going to be doing within the next 4 years. If you're still going to be in school, put that into consideration. If you're looking for a new job, if you're planning on having children, like,
there's a lot of aspects that you got to think about. And this just goes into the whole worldly view of how the world views us, how the world, takes into some consideration of us. If you haven't seen it, definitely as a recommendation, I would see the latest episode of Last Night with John Oliver. It does a really great piece on India right now and all the craziness that Trump has affected to the world. And so it's just, again, Republican primary, we already got that down. But for the Democrats out there, please just vote. Just vote, and I hope that you have a wonderful voting period. This is our God-given right as Americans to do. We control this, and we control the country. And we can do it in a simple way. So let's do it. Let's change the world.
Mike is right. We control the votes.
Absolutely.
Also, that amendments were created and passed. Keep that in mind for us to vote. So if you do have citizenship status, and you're a lazy bum sitting on the couch just watching your football recaps of last week.
I was going to say.
Or Netflix TV shows. Like, think about all those other people who don't have the ability to vote.
That need you to vote.
Need you to vote.
And I think especially as students of color or people of color, whoever's listening out there, like, we also have to recognize, like, there are people who died for us to have this right.
100%.
Died for us to be able to do this now. And so, like, it is our responsibility now to our ancestors to practice what they, like, pushed for us, what they made happen for us. Because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have this opportunity at all. Just going, so Ethnic Studies had a little event last week that we went to, but we did, like, talk about that and, like, how for a lot of communities of color, like, the people are like, oh, we need, like, more black people to vote, or we need something, and, like, yes, we need people to vote, and we need people who are in the seats to actually give a damn about us. So that's like the biggest thing. Like, so it is this, like, two-way thing. Like, you want us to vote, then let me see what you're actually gonna do for us. And so that's something to really consider when you're about to vote. Remember, if you're here in Colorado, you have until next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. That's the last day. Tuesday is the last day to vote. Please vote, because this is historic changing. This is
absolutely
gonna happen regardless. You need to vote. Be a part of history. Tell your kids what you voted for when you have kids, why you voted, why they should vote when they come of age. This is a very good time. A lot of people are like, oh no, elections. Like, no, this is a very good time.
Your actions play a big part. Even if you don't vote, that's a big impact too.
Exactly.
Like,
it is literally in your hands to vote. You press the buttons, you hit the pencil, you drive your car wherever, you know, like, you put it in the box, you wave goodbye to the lady.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that we talked about at Chelsea's event too. I don't want to say just Chelsea. It's ethnic studies, but like Chelsea was one of the people leading it. I think you or someone else on the panel brought up a good point that the language is not always like super easy to understand with like voting. Mm-hmm. And there are websites as well that kind of break that down and make it a lot simpler for you to understand. Because I mean, I go into the booth and I'm like, this is gibberish.
This is crazy.
Especially the first time I went to vote, I was like, oh.
It's like, yo, we got a mayor? What?
Yeah. But that's for real. Like, educate yourself. And I think we're really big people that try to push that.
Yes. Yeah. So I think
it was a wonderful event that Chelsea put on, by the way. She's great.
Attend our next week.
Yeah.
But yes, for this video, we're gonna have a bunch of links to the top 5 candidates' websites and all their URLs and all that stuff. And we'll put a little Colorado thing so you can know where to vote. Yeah. If you don't know where Tivoli is, look at the big old building in the middle of campus. That's where you can go vote if you're a student here at CU Denver. Yes. If you're at Metro or CCD, we will find out where you need to vote, wherever. But that will conclude our...
Well, MSU and CCD can also vote at Tivoli. Yeah. Oh, it's a tri-institutional building.
Look at that. Look at that.
So if you're listening to this, please vote at the Tivoli. If you do live outside of this county, though, definitely look to see where you can at least drop off your ballots.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yes. Okay, we will conclude that super packed Democratic primary episode of What Are You? Our next episode will be an exciting one.
That I'm finding out right. One moment, audience. I got it.
I think it actually might be. No, it's not going to be.
Our next episode.
We got really excited about this election episode.
Yeah.
So
I knew this was going to be your episode, so this is good. No, this is a lot of good information. Okay, so our next episode is going to be hypersexualization of mixed people, and we'll actually have a guest for that next show. It'll be M. Elvis, pronouns they, them, theirs, who is over at the Phoenix Center. So it'll be a really good discussion.
Nice. But yes. Thank you so much. Go vote. Hope you have a wonderful day. Go vote. This is another episode of What Are You?